Chapter 1. Smack! A 16-ounce frozen bottle of water hit the center of her riot shield, hard enough to make Danni Grace stumble back a step. She recovered quickly and shook her head when the officer next to her shot her a concerned look. The mob in front of them was an angry, pulsating mass of hate, violence, and rage pressing forward. Almost everyone she could see was masked, which made the situation creepy besides dangerous. Facing off against the crowd, Danni was quite certain her city had gone crazy. Even the air felt thick with rage, as thick and acrid as the air around the carcass of a freshly killed skunk. All she and the officers with her could do was hold their ground. Danni could understand protests if they were justified. But all this anger and violence had been sparked by a lie. 48 hours ago, a cop in Los Angeles, one of La Rosa's neighboring jurisdictions, had shot a woman wielding a gun. Tragic, yes, especially since she was a young mother. But now the tragedy was being compounded by a lie going viral that the woman had been unarmed. LA officers responding to a neighbor dispute were confronted by the armed woman. Multiple witnesses said she'd just shot her neighbor, and then she pointed the gun at the officers. Well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes was what her father would have said. Danni was too horrified by the huge outpouring of animosity toward all police to come up with her own pithy response. Though the woman's gun was clearly visible in the officer's body cam footage, the viral clip was from a bystander's phone. The gun could not be seen, but the child screaming over his mother's body was center stage. In less than 12 hours, Los Angeles exploded in protests that quickly morphed into riots. It seemed as if half the city of LA was burning. It took only a few hours for the riots to spread across the border to La Rosa, thanks in part to the local paper, the La Rosa Tribune. The Tribune had never been pro-police, and the Hoffmans, senior and junior, father and son owners of the rag, stoked the fire and the anger by running with the lie, even after the body cam footage revealing the truth was released way sooner than required by law. The Tribune trumpeted the protesters as freedom fighters. Danni would have laughed the appellation off if the whole thing weren't so serious. After the LA shooting, La Rosa went to alert status. But today the crowd gathering outside the East substation very nearly overwhelmed the first squad of officers. Danni and the group with her were reinforcements, trying to keep La Rosa from turning into LA. The department had not been fully prepared for lawful protests turning into unlawful violent riots so quickly. She blinked as sweat dripping down her forehead stung her eyes, the weight of the riot helmet and mask heavy on her head and face. She stood in a line of other helmeted officers, everyone the department could field. Plainclothes units, investigators, academy instructors, all personnel were needed to uniform up and face off against this raging mob determined to burn down the East Police substation. Since becoming a detective 5 years ago, Danni hadn't worn a uniform, and though gratified when her old one still fit, she'd rather be anywhere than where she was. Her partner, Matt Shaver, had had his vacation canceled but had not yet arrived on scene. She was certain she'd get an earful from him about the injustice of it all. On her right, Mel Howard, all 6'2" of him, was on the receiving end of a lot of verbal guff. 3 large women with multicolored hair were calling him everything but human. On her left, Yen, a 5-foot-tall spark plug, was holding her own. But Danni feared the diminutive officer would not survive a full assault. And assault was the crowd's intent, if Danni was any judge of this situation. No one in La Rosa, and no cop she'd ever met, wanted to come to work and have to shoot somebody. In 15 years, Danni had never fired her service revolver. The same could be said of most of her peers. Why was every person in uniform now being painted as a killer?